So what would a guy like me have to say about corsets? Well, believe it or not, corsets have actually been worn by guys and gals over the years. Of course, nowadays they're mostly worn by women, and the corsets of today are not like they were long time ago. Corsets have been made out of all kinds of various materials, from cotton to satin to silk, from linen, okay, just plain old linen. And when they were first created, often they would be, you'd have two layers of fabric, and those two layers were covered with a stiff starch, and that's what stiffened them up, okay. And the purpose of the corset, it just depended on where you were at as to why you would wear a garment like this. Obviously women are a lot more curvy than men, but it would depend on what kind of an appearance you wanted to give to people. If you wanted people to think you were thin when you really weren't, you would have something that would make you look more thin, okay. Remember, back in those days, they didn't have exercise programs like they do today. At least not for women. For men they did, for women not really. Gotta keep in mind, women were domesticated. Okay, they usually didn't leave the house the way men did. So, if you wanted to appear real thin, you'd wear a corset that would make you look real thin. If you wanted to amplify your chest area, you would wear a corset that would amplify it. If you wanted to restrict it for, say, a religious ceremony, you'd wear a corset that would restrict it, that kind of thing. But that would be the reasons why you'd wear something like that. The only problem was that when you started wearing garments like this, and when they talk about corsets made out of fabric and whale bones, they're talking about whales don't exactly have teeth as you would understand the term. You'd have to kind of look that up yourself. But they have something similar to teeth, and that's what they're talking about the whale bone. They would actually take the stuff out of their mouths, basically, and fashion pieces, real thin pieces, that would be kind of in the shape of like a knitting needle or something like that, and that's where you would get your stiffening effect. They don't do that anymore because the whale population decreased to such an extent that, well, the whales are going to become extinct if they hadn't stopped it. So there you go. Like I said, these things have been made out of various fabrics, from latex to cotton to satin to silk to just plain linen. The only problem with these corsets was that a lot of times they were so restrictive that they were compressing internal organs, causing difficulties in breathing. They would cause spines and rib cages to deform, and that would cause osteoarthritis and osteoporosis, which is never good. And so you can pretty much get to seeing what this was actually doing to people. Women do not normally wear corsets today. They've actually kind of scaled it down to two-piece outfits, which would be what you'd wear on your bottom, and then of course the brassiere, or the bra, that you would wear on top. And you have to keep in mind that when you're factoring in buying brassieres and of course bottom garments like that, you have to first of all take into account of the fabric. You have to make sure it's not going to make you massively perspire wearing the stuff. You have to make sure it's a durable material. That's why when latex started coming out, it was a little bit more durable and a little more flexible. Remember, latex is not only flexible, but it's also a lot more durable than some of the other fabrics that they were using, and they still use to this day. So you have to keep in mind not only the fabric that you're going to be using to make these garments, also remember, you don't want the colors in your fabrics to fade, because when you're getting intimate, the last thing you want to do is have a faded garment. number 3, you got to keep in mind the class. Now when they used to have the corsets, the original ones, they would be laced up with string, and you have to make sure that string was sturdy enough, because let me tell you something, the string snapped and boy, you were in trouble. Nowadays, with the brassiere, you have the clasp, and you have metal hooks, and depending on how strong the metal hook is as to whether the garment is going to hold together or not. Also, you have to take a look at the stitching. Okay, remember those metal hooks are stitched onto the fabric. If the stitching isn't very good, it doesn't matter how good the metal is for the clasps. The metal clasps fall off, your garment's pretty much history. Then you could really have a wardrobe malfunction because of it. So like I said, you have to really consider what kind of metal is being used for the clasps, because you don't want the metal to break. You want to make sure that the garment that you're wearing is a sturdy fabric. Okay, and like I said, you have to determine when you're wearing garments like this, what you want to present. Do you want people to see more of your features, or do you want to compress them a little bit so that they don't stand out? See what I mean? And like I said, you have to also consider, when you talk about fabrics, you got to consider the color of the fabric and making sure the color doesn't run all over the place and gets on your other clothes. These kind of fabrics, these kind of garments would be put in the gentle cycle, because you put it in a regular cycle, they can really get damaged. They can fray, that kind of thing. Also, if you have a garment with adjustable straps, make sure that the metal pieces that make the straps adjustable don't snap off. Okay, that's very important. And make sure that you can adjust well enough. You don't want too tight of a garment, you don't want something that's too loose, or you'll have a wardrobe malfunction. So it's just a lot of things that a lot of people just don't consider in the line of these kind of garments. So no one inventor invented all of this stuff. I wish I could come to you and say, hey, so-and-so person was the person who invented the original corset. There's just no documents to say this one particular person did that. It's believed that the modern corset can be dated back to the French. Nice. But like I said, you have to take a lot of things into consideration when dealing with garments like this. And like I said, it's as much about its appearance as it is making sure your internal organs are not constricted and you're not damaging yourself while wearing the outfit. So that's pretty much all there is to that. I will tell you more in a future video, so stay tuned.